sequence of transformations. We're going to start with number 7. It says, now that you are going to try multi-step transformations, we're going to translate triangle ALT. So first we need to label ALT, which is -5, -1. That's going to be point A. L is -3, -2. And T is -3, +2. And that's going to form our triangle. So we are going to follow the rules where XY is going to be translated. This is the notation or rule for translation. So when it says X plus 6, that means you're going to move +6 on the X-axis. So that means right 6. And Y minus 3 means you're going to move -3 or down 3 on the Y-axis. So that is down 3. So I'm going to teach each point, and I'm going to move right 6 and down 3. Then I'm going to reflect the image over the Y-axis. So first I'm going to complete the first transformation. And that's going to take each point. So I'm going to start at A, and I'm going to over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and down 1, 2, 3. And this is going to be my A prime. And that means this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down 1, 2, 3, is 1, -4. Now I'm going to take my L, which is over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down 1, 2, 3. That becomes L prime, and that is 3, -5. And I'm going to translate T, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down 1, 2, 3. And that becomes T prime. And so here is my first transformation image. And that point is 3, -1. Then we have to reflect over the Y-axis. The Y-axis is your vertical axis. I'm not going back to the original figure. I'm going to take my new triangle and I'm going to reflect it over to the quadrant 3. When we are doing a reflection over the Y, it's the X value that changes. So if I started at point, let's start back here at A. If I started at A, which was 1, -4, the reflected image would turn right here, which is going to be -1, -4. So that's going to be my A double prime because it's the second transformation, -1, -4. Noticing that the X coordinate is what changed from the reflected image. So now I'm going to look at L. If L was 3, -5, the reflected image would be -3, -5. Again, the X value is what changed, signs. And my T was a +3, -5, so it's going to become a -3, -1. I'm sorry, -3, 1. +3, -1 becomes -3, -1. That's my T double prime. And there is -3, -1 is my last one. So here are my 3 triangles. First, we started with the blue triangle. We translated it to create the purple triangle, and then we flipped it or reflected over the Y-axis to create the green triangle. One thing to notice is that all the triangles are the same shape and size, so they are all congruent. And the 3 transformations that make an object congruent are going to be a translation, a reflection, and a rotation. Once you start talking about a dilation, it becomes similar figures. All right, let's look at one more example. So we're going to start over here at B and reflect triangle TAB. So let's draw that first. So we have 2, 3 is T, 1, 1 is A, and 4, -3 is my B. And there's my first triangle. Now I'm going to reflect it over the X-axis, and then I'm going to reflect it over the Y-axis, but I have to do it one at a time. So my first image is going to reflect over the X-axis. The horizontal axis is the X-axis, so I'm going to reflect from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom to the top. When we're reflecting over the X, the Y coordinate changes. So I'm going to start with my T, and if my original point was 2, 3, my new reflected point would be 2, -3. If I reflect A, oh, and that point becomes 2, negative 3. If I reflect A, which was 1, positive 1, the reflection becomes 1, negative 1. And then my B, which started at 4, negative 3, becomes 4, positive 3. Notice how I'm putting 1 prime symbol for each new point because this was the first transformation. Now the second transformation is that I have to reflect over the y-axis. This vertical axis is my y-axis. When I'm reflecting over the y-axis, my x value changes. So let's start back at t, my t prime that is. I'm going to go back to the t prime, which was 2, negative 3. So the reflection over the y-axis would be negative 2, negative 3. I'm going to go to a prime and reflect it over the y-axis. So this becomes a double prime is negative 1, negative 1. Again, looking at the points and the x value is changing when I reflect over the y-axis. And then my b, which was 4, 3, is going to become negative 4, 3. So that's b double prime. And here is my double reflected image from the original. Again, they should be congruent because they have rigid motion between rotations, reflections, and translations. If I look at an image, I can also guess or figure out what the transformation is. So if I was going from figure A to figure A prime, there's a couple things I could think about doing. I could think about rotating or turning this image and then sliding it over, but we can see that we're definitely going to have to turn it, probably about a 90-degree rotation, and then slide it over and down. So I would identify this transformation as a rotation of 90 degrees and a translation. If I look at B, I could do one of two things. At this point, since I don't know which corners match up because they weren't labeled, I could simply translate it down and over, and that would be a translation. You could also translate it down and then reflecting it over. So you have multiple options when you're talking about sequence of transformations. So sequence of transformations is when you're doing 2 or more transformations, either a rotation, a dilation, translation, or reflection to a figure in a single problem.